Alrighty, what's up everybody? I'm Average Joe and welcome to another Average video. Today's Average video we're going to be working on the DIY Powerwall 2.0 again, and we're going to be installing all the battery cables that we made in the last video, and we need to install the piece of conduit that goes from the battery box over to the inverter. Alrighty, let's get to it. The first thing we need to do actually is install the piece of conduit because, like I mentioned in the last video, I need to make sure that the negative battery cable will fit from the shunt over to the inverter. This is just a previous battery cable that I made from the other inverter that I was using, the 12,000 watt grow watt inverter. And of course, you know, I changed everything out. So I don't really want to make a new cable if I don't have to, but if I have to, it'll be just fine. I do have one battery terminal left over. I'm just cheap and I don't want to waste any battery cable if I don't have to. All right, so I did already previously set this up whenever I installed the inverter. The only thing that is glued is the reducer inside of here. That's pretty much it. Everything else is not glued up. So we're going to do that. So this all basically fits in there for the most part. I just have to glue it all up and get this part of the depth correct, and then we can glue it up. Alrighty, so over here, just like I've probably mentioned a million times already, is whenever I installed the Lux Power inverter and the Ethos batteries over here, that's whenever I cut all this and fit it and shaped it and all of that kind of fun stuff. And I tried to make it exactly like this side over here, so whenever I do, install it, everything should kind of mirror what's going on that side as far as the battery terminals. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is get inside of here so we can pop out the knockout hole and then install this piece right here. Actually, I could probably just mirror exactly what it is right there, but we'll probably set it in there and make sure everything fits correctly. Let's have these opened up. So in the bottom of these inverters, these knockouts are super easy. You just have to basically twist them on these ones, and that's it. It literally took 1 second to pull that out. All right, we'll just set this right up in here. We'll put our lock ring on there. All right, now I am not going to put this on there yet because we might be pulling this back out, but I do have that, and technically I don't think I really need that because all of this is, PVC anyway, but I am going to put it on there because it makes it look nice and pretty. And then put that over into the battery. Oh, I might actually have to put that in last. Okay, let me pull this back out. See, look at that. I'm already pulling it back out. Close that again. All right, I'll set this on here. Perfect way, not really. Well, I could have swore I had all this fit up just right. Kind of looks like we're a little long. Alright, I might try one more thing. I might try to pull this fitting out and see if I can get it in there. As long as I can get it out. Because I did silicone it in place to seal it up. Alrighty, what can we do to make this work? Alright, this was in the garage. It's the biggest wrench that I have. It's siliconed in, just FYI. There we go. I did that whenever I was doing the smoke testing. I was just trying to seal everything up. That doesn't help me much. I need to get that off too. Come on. Jeez. Wow. At least I did a good job sealing it. Wow. That's gonna be fun getting that back in. Here, if I go like this, I can maybe make you. Okay. Why is this so tight? All right, well, it looks like I really do have to trim this side just a hair.
Moments.
Okay, let's try that again, shall we? Chew it there. There we go. Got it. So that does fit in now. So I am going to pull this apart and then glue it the same distance as this right over here. I'm just using the all-purpose cement. Okay, I did put a line on the back side so I know where to line everything up. My gap is 5/16. Oh, that's like perfect. For this one, I hope the angle is good enough. Achoo! Oh, let's go see if it fits. And if I'm fast enough, which I'm probably not, we could have some adjustment in the glue. I mean, it does fit for the most part. I'm gonna cinch them all down and see if it looks okay. Probably should have cleaned off that crap in here. Not even close. Okay, I gotta clean off the silicone I put on the battery box, so I can barely turn the lock ring over there. Yeah, give me just a second. I gotta pull all this stuff off.
More.
I got a good portion of it, but I did not get it all. So, yeah, it's gonna be a fight all the way. That's okay. That's what we do. Okay, you stay there. Okay. Okay, hopefully nobody will see that. I just won't show it. There we go. We are a little crooked, as you can see. There's a little tiny gap right there, but that's as tight as I can get it. And I'm pretty sure that gap is there is because, of course, I went ahead and glued this side where this was going to be my adjustment, you know, in and out. So if I could have brought this out just a little bit, that would have taken care of that little tiny gap right there. I'm not perfect either, so I'm just going to have to live with that. I just won't show anybody the bottom ever again. Next thing we got to do is put in our negative battery cable and see if it fits. It just needs to reach. That's what we're shooting for. We're gonna go up here. And I'm gonna tape it right to the positive. I just want it to stay over here, that's all. Come on. Is that it? Go through here. Ooh. We are gonna fit. Look at that. I don't necessarily know about the top lug, but we can definitely hit the bottom lug and have just a little tiny bit of play on the other side. Sorry about that. But the only other problem now is this lug is too big for the shunt and this 3D printed cover on the side of the Batrium shunt. So I might have to trim the edge of this off, which maybe we'll do a different time. All right, we just barely have enough length with my old wire. If I cut off, you know, I just cut it right off and I can't use any of the wire underneath it, the crimped wire, which probably isn't a good idea anyway. We just have enough for that existing wire to reach. The next thing, which I probably won't do right now, is The side of the Batrium shunt, the little 3D printed cover with the electronics underneath, sticks up kind of high. In my opinion, that is kind of like a flaw because it kind of limits you to what kind of battery lug size you can use. So I'm gonna have to trim the battery lug down a little bit on one side in order for this to fit. Which isn't ideal, but that's just what I'm gonna have to do. But I don't think we're going to do that right now. I think the next thing I want to do is I want to start installing all the battery cables in here. And I think I am going to attempt to use those little 3M zip tie holder thingies for all of my cable management. And we'll just see what happens. And somebody did comment in the last video about making sure that you clean the surface before you install those, which I did plan on doing. That's what the instructions say on those. And then I think it says, wait for like an hour or two for the adhesive to fully set up somehow. And then that's where they're the strongest. So that's what we're gonna do next. Even though I don't technically know where every single little sticky is going to go, I'm just gonna kind of wipe off the whole back surface. I might do a little bit on the top as well, and I'm just gonna use a paper towel and some isopropyl alcohol. The main reason I'm using the isopropyl alcohol is because it does a really good job, and two, it evaporates pretty quick. Alrighty, slight change before we install all the battery cables. I can technically install them up here, however I cannot install them down here because I don't even have this battery set up yet. So that's what we're going to do now real quick, is we're going to get it into the same state as this battery up here. Basically install all of the fish paper that I have and then install all the all thread for my fixing. Okay, so in order for us to do that, I kind of think I need to start pulling out all the batteries real quick just so I can get to the back all thread a little bit easier, and then I can set the cells exactly where they need to go. All right, my end plates, these are made out of 1/2" phenolic, okay? Basically all I did is I drilled some 1/2" holes. For the backside, these are kind of like those press-in nut plates that you would put in for like woodworking and stuff like that. I just didn't want it sticking out on this side. I could have had nuts on that side, but I just bought a whole bag of these to throw them in. These were kind of a pain in the ass to do inside the phenolic block. I wouldn't really suggest it. Okay, anyway, moving on to this. Let me get this wire out of the way. Okay, so, all right, so like I said in one of the other videos, for my all thread right here, I didn't have enough of the black heat shrink to cover them all, so the ones that I had left over, I just used some clear tubing that I had, and I'm just gonna put those on the back side and nobody will ever see them. So that's what we're going to install first. So basically I'm just gonna thread these in real quick. And I just thread them in so they're flush on this back side, okay? I am going to pull every single one of these cells out so I can set those two end plates and all thread in. And I do have to rotate these batteries so my number one positive can be right out here on this end. All right, so these upper batteries right here are going to be sitting on a piece of plexiglass, and this isn't anything special. It's actually from a flat screen TV that I probably found on the side of a road. That's it. We'll set this in here. I am going to just throw on the washer and nut over here just so it doesn't fall off. Battery 1 goes in just like this. Battery 2. And when I am setting these in, they are going back and forth. All right, and I'm also going to install one piece of the fish paper in between here. That way, none of the batteries can physically touch each other. Battery 3, fish paper. 4, there. 5, fish paper. Alrighty, next in is going to be our all thread, and again I'm going to thread these in so they are flush back on this side. The only reason I'm doing that for the most part is so I know kind of how much thread protrusion is going to be on this side. It's just a little bit easier to see. Next one. and then we can do our washer and nuts. Okay, so I am going to finger tighten these. So basically all thread protrusion is about the same. Since these cells right here are a little bit thicker or wider than these ones up here, I don't have quite as much thread protrusion down here, but that's okay. That's all I'm gonna be doing is just basically fixing them in place. Okay, now on to the second row, which is basically the same, but we are going to put a piece of fish paper along the bottom. You might be asking yourself, how am I going to install the bus bars and then tighten all of those down? It's gonna be quite the task, but I'm up to the challenge. Now on to the bottom layer plates. These ones do have a notch cut out to go around the lip of the box right here. Okay, go ahead and put these in here. All right, before we put our compression plates in there, the bottom of this, of course, is metal, but it's painted metal, and I don't think anything's going to ever, you know, touch any batteries or anything like that, but I did cut a piece of fish paper to go along this very, very bottom edge right here, okay? And since there is a lip down here, just like I needed for the bottom of my plates right here, I do have a really, really thin piece of fish paper that will go along this inner edge right here, so no metal ever touches any battery. Okay, let's put this in here. Battery 9, battery 10, piece of fish paper. And then battery 16, and I need to find a missing one piece of fish paper. Hold on. I actually did not cut one, or I just lost one. And you in here. Alrighty, last two pieces of all thread. Put that in here. And then the last one. We're gonna put our washer and nut on this side and get them as equal as we can, and then that's about it. And the tape down here, that was what I needed for, I guess, an alignment earlier. I don't think it technically needs to be there anymore. And then the last thing is this thin piece of fish paper, which just goes right down here, and that just prevents the bottom of the cells from touching, you know, any sort of metal right through here. And that's all it does, it just sits right there. Boom. Alrighty, now we can install all the battery cables, kind of permanent / temporary. I think the only ones we're not going to install at the moment are going to be the ones that go from the bus bar and shunt over to the inverter. I might save that for, I don't know, because we're going to have to trim that one up a little bit. We might be able to get the positive one ran over there, but of course we're not going to hook it up. But for now, we'll get all these ones routed, and then we'll install those little 3M sticky tack things and go on from there. First one is going to be from the fuse to battery number 1. I'm not going to hook it up to the battery, of course, right yet, because we got other stuff we'll have to install a little bit later. So I'm going to put a washer on there, then the split washer or lock washer. I'm going to tighten them down. I don't know if I'm going to tighten them all the way, but we'll get them close. Not sure of the torque value on these either. All right, next one's going to be from the relay to the bus bar. Flat washer, split washer, and the nut. Right about there. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pull this back out so I can slightly bend the terminal. Which I think all I'm going to do is attempt to set this in here. Yes. Okay, I think that's all I needed, was just a slight angle. Set this back up in here. Oh, that's like damn near perfect. That looks great. Whenever I put this in its final position, I do have to remember not to put it up against this nut and then the threads that are protruding out of here. But at that bend, It's kind of perfect. On to the negative. Oh, I need to put a freaking bend on here. My bad. Let me do my bend real quick. All right, got my small bend on the terminal here. I'll set you right there. Definitely a little long, but that's okay. We're gonna work with it. Next is battery to battery for the interconnect. Here. Battery number 2. Don't know if I need a bend on here quite yet, because this is going to go up to the bus bar this direction. Don't want to strip those out, do we? No, we don't. So we'll just set you there for the moment. Here's some nuts. I'm not a fan of this style right here. I'll probably change these out, actually. It's gonna be tight, 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 tight.
Oh, tight, 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 yeah!
Next one is going to be the negative. Go ahead and throw him up here. Route you over everything. Set you right there. On to the little zip tie thingies. Just FYI, somebody mentioned having the ones that have the screw holes and stuff. These ones actually do have the screw holes, and it actually came with a little bag of screws, you know, if you were going that route. Okay, I don't know how many we're gonna need, but we got plenty of them in here. Okay, I'm gonna slide this over just a smidge so I can get back here and put like 1 or 2 of these. Just back here, where you can totally see. Slide this back. Probably gonna put these all over the place and have too many. You know, like any normal person. Yes, my OCD is making them all have the lettering up. I'm not going to put any over here quite yet. I'm still kind of rethinking those circuit breakers on the side. I could still go in there if needed for the positive and negative. Let's hope I can get these back off if I need them back off. Be like right here. These wires are going nowhere. Alrighty, got all the stick-on zip tie thingies connected or stuck to the wall. So I've got 2 back there. Those are going to be from the negative battery cable. They're going to go up, stick to those 2. I've got 1 right up here in the corner for that one. If I need to, I'll stick 1 right back here. I will have to trim it just a little bit so it'll fit, but we'll see later on whenever I actually stick them down. 1 more right there. I actually have 2 more for that negative cable. The next one is from the solenoid right there. I've only got 1 right there, and I left this wall blank just in case I actually put that circuit breaker back in, because I am kind of rethinking that just for a mechanical on and off, but we'll see here, I don't know, in the next day or 2. All right, and then for the interconnect right there, I got 2 back there for that one, and that is basically it for battery number 1. And then battery number 2, I just basically mirrored what I had up there on the top. The only thing that's a little bit different is my little loop that's right over here, because all the wires go up through that piece of conduit right there. The only other thing that I could potentially put more of these zip tie thingies on the wall is for the base ram wires, and then for the solenoid wires right there. All right, all those are stuck on, and I'm not going to zip tie anything right yet. I'm going to wait the hour or 2 that it recommends for, I don't know, the tape to set up correctly. And then after that, you know, I'll go ahead and zip tie everything down. I will say in the past, whenever I've used other ones, they have all fallen off. However, the things that I've done different with those particular ones is I would stick them to whatever I'm sticking them to, and then I would immediately use it, and they all fall off. So I don't know, maybe there is something to it that you actually have to wait an hour or two for the foam tape to set up. I don't know, we'll find out. So I'm gonna wait like an hour or two, so give me just a second and I'll be right back.
Tomorrow.
All right, it is the very next day and these have had plenty of time to do their adhesion, I hope, to the metal. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is zip tie all of these, even though I just don't think that's a good idea because I'm sure I'm gonna take it off because I'll change something, but we're gonna do it anyway. And I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see really anything.
Kung Fu.
Flush cutters. Snip. I said snip. Snip. I know you can totally see what I'm doing, but I can barely see what I'm doing, so you're just gonna have to go off of sound. Like that. Left-handed snip. This battery is pretty much the same, minus a couple over there. Boom, got it done. All right, so starting back there, I got those two that you can't really see. We got the guy up there in the corner, in between the fuse and the solenoid. These three right over here, and then I did actually install two of them back there on that side wall. Yeah, I didn't really wait the full 1 or 2 hours, but I just didn't really see those two falling off. I just needed 2 more to hold those wires in place. And then of course on that back wall for our interconnect, those are connected. And then of course the same thing down here. It's all pretty much identical except for the couple that are right down here. So all in all, I would say it looks fan-freaking-tastic. And yes, I even made sure every single zip tie holder was facing the same direction as in the wording. And I put all the zip ties going the exact same way. Alrighty, so wire management is partially done, minus any sort of bay tram wires and the solenoid wires and any other wires that I have to add here, you know, in the future. And then the next thing that I did real quick is I pulled out the bay tram shunt because I was going to start making that wire right there. And earlier, like I mentioned, with the 3D printed side cover, it looks like I have to kind of trim up some of the lug in order for the lug to fit perfectly on the shunt, which is gonna suck. All right, I just took the bay tram shunt off so I could try to figure out how I'm gonna mount these big ass lugs on the bay tram shunt. The 3D printed area is butted right up against the shunt, right over here, okay? And I actually can't fit a very big lug on there. All right, so if I try to put that on there, you know, it's too big. It just doesn't line up basically in all directions. So I could potentially shave the lug down a little bit, you know, or cut it off. I just don't think that that's a good idea. And if I'm having a problem like this, I would imagine many others are having a problem like this, is you're kind of limited to, you know, a specific lug size. Let me take this off. I've had it off once before whenever I was doing one of the wires earlier in one of the other videos. I'm not sure how these are calibrated. I know they use like special equipment to calibrate these. I don't know how it's calibrated. And the back of this is actually 3D printed. So I'm gonna take this apart and see what's back here. Because if I don't need the 3D printed area, as long as I don't break it, I guess if we break it, then if I don't need this 3D printed piece, then it's not much of a problem. So that does come out. All right, so like I was just saying a second ago, I don't know if these are calibrated with this attached to the shunt or if it's all calibrated, you know, with this plastic spacer behind it. If I don't have to have all of this connected, I could potentially just attach that on there, and then I think my lugs will fit on there just fine. Let me see. Let me put this lug on here. Yeah, so if I set this on here all by itself, then I can use any lug size that I want. The only problem with that is on the back side here, I just have to make sure all the contacts are covered, even though there is some conformal coating on there. So that's nice. I could potentially, break this circuit board somehow, messing with wires or whatever. But that is an option, which I might just do. I could probably put the spacer back underneath there, just so I don't have to mess with the backside anymore. Alright, so that's what I might do, is I might just put it together with the back on there. Or I could potentially just cut this top side off and then put this back on. There's just some tiny holes in there, and I think that's just for LEDs, red and green if I remember correctly. Yeah, right there in the center. Okay, so I could potentially just cut the top of this off. The only problem with that is I guarantee I won't be able to get a very straight cut. That's the only downfall with this shunt right here, is this 3D printed piece right here. Even though it does look good, there's nothing wrong with the looks or anything like that. It's just so thick you can't put on bigger size lugs. And I know with my DIY Powerwall 1, I did not have big ass lugs like this. They were the smaller copper ones, and those ones did fit on here just fine. Alright, well, I think for the time being, I'm just gonna throw the circuit board and maybe this plastic cover on here, and I'll figure out what to do with this cover later on. And one other thing is, earlier I thought I would have one of these battery lugs left after I made my wire. That is 100% incorrect. I lied. I won't, because I need both of these for this wire. I'm just really glad I didn't go ahead and make a new battery cable that goes from the shunt over to the inverter, because I need both of these right here for the wire that we're going to make right now. Alright, I went ahead and threw the Batrium shunt back in here without any of the electronics or anything attached to it, and then I also ran the negative battery cable from the bottom of the shunt down and then through the conduit over there over to the inverter. It's just sitting over there, and then I just used the positive wire for my template. I'm getting ready to mark that. Now, there was a few different things that I was thinking about whenever I was doing this. The only reason I'm telling you all of this is because this is what's going through my head whenever I make stuff like this, okay? So there was a few different thoughts that I had for this wire that goes down to the bus bar right down here. My original thought was not having this circuit breaker in here and just basically going back and then down to the bus bar. However, I'm still uncertain whether I'm going to use this circuit breaker or not. And if I decide to, then of course if I cut my wire too short, then I wouldn't be able to put the circuit breaker in here. So my thought is if I use the circuit breaker, I need room for that. So I'm gonna go up over it and then down to the bus bar right here. Now, what I would like for you guys, I would like your opinions on whether or not I should use this circuit breaker right here, okay? I am not using this for any protection. I would only use it for a mechanical disconnect. Just if I ever need to work on the system or whatever, I can just cut one battery off, versus going through the Batrium system and using the solenoid over there, okay? Now, the only thing I'm not sure about with these circuit breakers is I know they have to go in a specific direction, okay? So the battery is going to be connected to the top, and then the inverter would be connected to the bottom. Now, here's the thing I'm not sure of is if I have it connected like that, bottom side goes over to the inverter. The inverter also charges the batteries. So then the DC voltage is actually going in the opposite direction. And I'm not sure about that on these type of circuit breakers, because I think they're technically only supposed to go in one direction. If I had an inverter that didn't have charging capabilities, from the grid or from solar, this would be just fine. But since, you charge from solar, electricity is gonna go the opposite way. If there's ever a problem, that's what I think of is all the problems that could potentially have, even though you're most likely not to have them. But let's say there's a problem while recharging and this decides to trip. Is this going to be able to extinguish that DC arc. That's what I'm not sure of. So I need your guys' opinions on these type of circuit breakers. If you know, don't just throw out a random guess. I have seen a solar video where a guy did test some polarized circuit breakers, and basically these go up in flames. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is technically a polarized circuit breaker or not. The listing on Amazon, of course, says, you know, you can use it for solar and, you know, basically all the battery power stuff like we're using. It doesn't say that this is a polarized circuit breaker, and it doesn't say it on here, and I can't seem to find the spec sheet for this. So this is one of those CHTAIXI breakers. Part number is DZ47NZ-125, and I got the B version, B125, and I think that's pretty much all we got on here. So again, I'm not using this for protection, I'm just using it for a mechanical on and off switch if I ever need to do maintenance. But I want to know if this decides to trip, you know, while I am recharging, am I going to be able to extinguish the DC arc? Okay, so having said all of that, if we actually decide we are going to use that, I need to keep room for that, so that's how I'm going to be running my negative wire from the shunt over to the inverter. So let me mark this real quick, and then we'll go ahead and make a new cable for this. But I want to have a little bit of room, so I think I'm actually going to cut it right at the E on made. Let me just put a little mark there. Let's make our next cable so we can move on to the very next step. Right about here. Boom, there is Crimped number 2/34. Not bad. Alright, I got the Batrium shunt back installed, and I was able to basically lightly put this outer cover back on. It's not fully on, but it does slightly cover the electronics. Okay, anyway, let's drop this in here. Now let's make sure the circuit breaker, get that in and out if we need to. Boom, down to the bus bar. Nice. Alright, so we do have plenty of room up here for wires to go in and out if we need to. Alright, next thing we'll do is we'll go from the shunt over to the inverter. Boom, there we go. Batrium shunt installed, and we got our wires installed, and we got a nice loop up here. And there's plenty of room for us to get wires in and out on the top and bottom. And of course, if we go down here, we got the bottom side going over to the inverter. You can see that going down through that piece of conduit right back there. Alright, I don't have the positive wire installed quite yet. I'll probably do that, I don't know, a little bit later. I'm just not too worried about it right now because we'll probably be adding more stuff. And then of course we got everything attached to the bus bars right back here, and it leaves me one open terminal, you know, if I need to add, well actually, I'm going to be adding these batteries to those bigger terminals later on, so that's good that we have two extra terminals. And I know I'll be adding some smaller wires to these, so I'll just double up, you know, wherever I need to. Some of that's going to be for powering the Batrium and probably, you know, something with the solenoids. I'll probably add some LED lighting in here like I had with the DIY Powerwall 1. And then, yeah, I'm not sure what else we will be doing inside of here, but so far I would say we're looking fan-freaking-tastic. Alrighty, there we go. Got all of our main cables installed, and we got all the wire management zip tie thingies installed. Hopefully those don't fall out or anything like that. I guess we'll hopefully know within the next couple of days, and I hope waiting the full day before we install the wiring hopefully that helped out quite a bit, because I've never done that in the past. I always just stick them and then use them. Alright, well I think we're gonna wrap up the video right here. It doesn't really seem like I did a whole lot, but on my end, you know, it took quite a bit of time, honestly. And a lot of people are probably saying, man, I could throw that together in like one day. Sure, I could probably, you know, slap a whole bunch of stuff in here, you know, in one day, but then it wouldn't give you guys something to watch, and it would be a little bit sloppy. And I'm trying to make everything kind of as perfect as I can for, you know, for a DIY battery. Anyway, before I go, don't forget, I need everybody's information. One, should I use these? Again, only for a mechanical disconnect, not for any protection at all. That's not what these are here for. I have the HRC fuses back here, and then again, once the Baytrium is hooked up, technically this would be, you know, everything that I need. This is only for if I want to shut off one battery box and do, you know, whatever kind of maintenance that may come up. That's pretty much the only use for these. And I know in a video or two ago that I was trying to minimize connections. Yeah, I might make more connections with these. And then the other thing is, if you have good information about these specific circuit breakers, or if you can find the data sheet for these, that would be great too. I thought I had it, but I just can't seem to find it anymore. I need to know, for example, is if the inverter was charging the batteries, which makes the electricity go in the opposite direction, and if for some reason this decides to trip, is it going to extinguish that DC arc? So let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions and real information on those. Alrighty, that's pretty much all I got for that. The next video, we're probably going to start adding bus bars, which is pretty exciting. And then we might actually work on the Baytrium shunt, because I haven't messed with that, obviously, in the last couple of years. We're probably going to have to do, you know, firmware upgrades and all of that kind of fun stuff, and then reset it for the lithium iron phosphate chemistry, because it was previously on the lithium ion chemistry for the original DIY Powerwall 1.0. Yeah, that could actually take a little bit of time, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be super easy. I have no idea. And then there was one other thing that I may or may not do is, so the Lycian cells up here, they came with the serrated flange nuts right here, which I do prefer, okay? And then the Rupu, or however you pronounce it down there, those ones actually came with a washer and a nut. I don't know, I guess I'm just not really a fan of that for the batteries, but who knows, maybe it could actually work out perfect. And then the other thing is the bus bars are actually different. The Lycians came with this style of bus bar, and the other ones came with this style bus bar. Hopefully that shows up in the camera correct. Again, I'm not a fan of these smaller ones. I don't think there's going to be that much, you know, difference for, you know, performance and stuff like that, because both of these batteries are going to be ran in parallel along with all of these other batteries in parallel. So it's not like a whole crap ton of current is going to be coming from these batteries. But if for, again, I like to think of the situations that typically won't happen, is if these batteries over here are down, and let's say battery box 2 was down, I could potentially be running, you know, my entire house off of one battery bank right up here, which is a little under 15 kilowatt hour. So, not that that would ever really happen, but it could, you never know. And of course, even during that time, if I needed to, I could just run less items in the house, but I just don't see it being a problem. I just prefer these bus bars over these bus bars. So I might actually order some new bus bars and some new nuts. Alright, well, that's pretty much all I got. If this video is helpful in any way, again, make sure you like that smash button on your way out, and I will see you on the next. These are kind of like press-in nuts. I should be doing string tie. I used to work for the Air Force. I used to love doing that. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and throw this up in here. We'll put our lock ring on there. Maybe, if we don't cross-thread it. Come on. What are you doing, little friend? What are you up to?